As we all know, skills in Yu-Gi-Oh come in all shapes and sizes. Some skills are created incredible off-rip, requiring minimal investment to get the most out of them, while others, well, let's just say some are so bad that you feel sometimes better off not even using it. And this got me thinking, how would I go about fixing all the bad skills in SpeedDuels? Okay, so the goal is simple. I plan on going ahead and upgrading every single bad skill from each individual SpeedDuel box. However, there are going to be two stipulations when I do this. The first is that each of the upgraded skills has to still work somewhat similar to the original. This means that if a skill, as an example, were to modulate attack, I can't go ahead and just change it to go ahead and start fusion summoning. The second stipulation is going to be the fact that the changes that I have to make to these skills has to be somewhat realistic and tame. This means that I can't just go ahead and recreate my Purchase Queen 2.0, and instead aiming for more skills similar to that of Ancient Ruler Rises, a decent skill overall that makes a pretty much unplayable deck need some form of viability. Well, with that being said, if you find yourself enjoying this video at any point in time, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe. As a matter of fact, you should just subscribe right now, since I have a plethora of different videos discussing SpeedDuels like this. And if you think you're already subscribed, then do me a favor and double check. It's very much appreciated and it goes a long way in helping this small channel grow. But if you'd like to take your support a step further, then you can always become a channel member. For only 99 cents, this is going to give you rewards such as a badge next to your name, custom Topsy emojis, and a shout out at the end of the videos. But with all that being said, let's begin. What's up guys, it's Topsy and welcome back to the channel. So on our last video, we went ahead and did our first take on fixing every skill for every SpeedDuel set. We did the original Battle City box in our last video, and that was a lot of fun. So in today's video, we're going to be moving on to the next set in chronological order, moving on to Duel Academy. And honestly, thinking about this set, I was imagining that the further we went into the series, the less and less skills that I would have to fix. And for the most part, that is true. However, there are still quite a few skills that do need upgrading from the original Duel Academy set. That being said, let's talk about the skills that are just going to be seeing no change whatsoever. Those skills include the following: Land of the Ojamas, Chaz's Ojama based field fill skill. I think the skill is completely fine. It doesn't really need any change. On the same topic, I don't think Consumed by Darkness also needs any changes. Same applies to Middle-Aged Max, another overall really good skill. The deck mainly just needs support. Continuing on the line, we have skills like Crystal Transcendence. I think this skill is just a great skill overall for the Crystal Beast strategy. Both of Alexis' skill in Cyberblade Fusion and Machine Angel's Ascension, both really powerful skills for what they're trying to accomplish. The Blaze Accelerator deployment skill, I think, is really well designed. And finally, the last two skills we didn't change were both of Zane's skills in Cyberdark style and Forbidden Cyber style technique. I think for the most part, these skills are not the issue whatsoever with the deck, and it's more has to do with the support these decks have. So none of these skills got changes in this video. However, there were still quite a few more that did need changes, so let's talk about them. Alright then, so first character up for the changes has to be Jaden. We're going to be going down the line in chronological order just because it makes the most sense to me right now. So the first skill that we ended up changing for Jaden was Here Goes Something. And honestly, this skill is just, it's neat in concept for the most part, but it's just not very good. So this skill reads: once per duel, you can activate this skill at the start of the battle phase while you control exactly one elemental hero monster and no other monsters. For the rest of this turn, that one monster gains 800 attack while battling an opponent's monster and can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. Also, you can special summon monsters for the rest of this turn. I understand why they did the skill. They designed it the way they did. They thought being able to beat down your opponent's monsters was very powerful. This could potentially give you the ability to OTK out of nowhere, and I think the idea was you're supposed to activate this skill on one of your fusion monsters to be able to do a lot of damage, or a card like Blade Edge, which has piercing damage. But let's be real, that wasn't really the case, and for the most part, you're going to be activating this skill on more like a Sparkman. That's not that impressive. So let's talk about the changes that I ended up making. And here is the newly improved Here Goes Something. This time around, the skill reads: once per turn during your main phase, you can target one elemental hero monster you control and have it gain the following effects until the end of this turn. It gains 800 attack, it can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, and other monsters you control can't attack. This time around, we have this skill be able to be activated multiple times per duel. I think that's completely fine, just for the very fact that it is a very specific boost for an elemental hero monster. So not only is it a specific boost for a specific deck, an elemental hero needs as much help as possible. But in addition, we still gave you the ability to go ahead and attack all your opponent's monsters, but you can still have other monsters on your field. The only thing is that all your other monsters can't attack the turn you activate this skill. I feel like this little change makes this skill a lot more viable and can give you a really interesting take on an elemental hero beatdown strategy. And I like the way it ended up coming out. Alright then, so next up we have the other skill from Jaden, the right hero for the job. And this skill is another cool skill and concept, but it's just a little too restrictive for my liking. This skill reads, once per duel, during your main phase, you can shuffle one elemental hero monster you control into your main deck, then special summon one level 4 or lower elemental hero monster from your deck, but with a different name from the shuffled card. Again, cool card in concept. I like the ability to be able to go ahead and swap out your heroes for something else you need more. However, I think the once per duel activation is a bit steep, and the fact that you're restricting yourself to level 4 lower elemental hero monsters seems like a bit too much too. So let's take a look at the changes I made. This time around, this skill reads, once per turn, during your main phase, you can shuffle one elemental hero monster you control into the main deck, then special summon one elemental hero monster from your main deck with a different name from the shuffled card. This skill can be used twice per duel. Now, I like this rendition of the skill way better. Keep in mind, a lot of the best elemental hero monsters in the game right now are level 4 or lower. The only thing that the original skill is preventing you from doing is summoning out cards like what? Necroshade, Blade Edge, Eos? Like, these cards are not that impressive to bring out off the effect of a skill, but it does give the deck a lot better of an opportunity to go ahead and make some other fusion cards like Brave Neos, the Wild Blade Edge, cards like those that are very difficult to get access to because the aforementioned elemental hero monsters with the higher levels are unsearchable because emergency call isn't in the game. And additionally, I do think that the power to go ahead and swap out monsters from the deck is very powerful, but I think a twice per duel activation is more than enough to rile it in. And this was probably my favorite skill to upgrade, but give me your thoughts in the comments section below. Moving away from Jaden onto another hero deck with Aster and his Destiny heroes. Oh, Aster. They did Aster so dirty in SpeedDuels, and it's a true shame. Both of the skills that Aster ended up getting are terrible to say the least, and if it's not bad enough, the deck that they ended up giving Aster is also atrocious. So let's see how I ended up fixing this. The first skill we're fixing for Aster is going to be Powerful Group of Guys, and it reads, while you control exactly one Destiny hero monster and no other monsters, and your opponent controls more monsters than you, special summon one Destiny hero monster from your hand or deck with a lower level than the monster you control. You can only summon Destiny hero monsters the turn you activate this skill. Yeah. So in concept, a cool skill. Being able to bring out your Destiny hero monsters, swarm the field, potentially summon out something like a Plasma or a Dogma. Cool in concept, but in practice it's extremely difficult to do because of the fact that not only do you rely on your opponent having more monsters than you, that means that they have to control 2 cards while you control at least 1 card. Also, the monster you're summoning out has to be a lower level than the card you control, meaning that you have to have a diverse level of monsters in your deck. So let's take a look at how I ended up fixing it. So the new version of the skill now reads, once per turn, while you control exactly one Destiny hero monster and no other monsters, you can special summon one Destiny hero monster from your hand or deck with a equal or lower level than the monster you control. You can only summon Destiny hero monsters during your turn you activate the skill. This skill can be activated twice per duel. This skill, I believe, is a significantly better upgrade to the one we have right now. Now, the conditions are much simpler. You only have to control one Destiny hero monster. Your opponent is no longer a factor on this. Additionally, the monster you're able to summon out from your deck can be an equal level or a lower level than the monster you control. I think this time around, it gives the deck a lot more funner plays, like summoning out something like a Diamond Dude, special summoning out something like a Doom Lord from the deck to be able to go ahead and get rid of an opponent's monster and give you a lot more fun and robust play style. I really like the way this skill ended up coming out. Okay, so the other skill that Aster ended up getting in the set was looking into the future, and would you believe me, this skill is somehow worse. This skill reads, during your main phase, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and return them in any order. You can't activate spell cards the turn you activate this skill. Oh my god. For the cost of being able to rearrange your deck, you're no longer able to activate any other spell cards that turn. That is a wild condition. You're expected to have Diamond Dude already on your field when you activate this skill, and for that very reason, I just don't like the way this skill ended up being designed. That's why here is my upgrade. The new version of looking into the future now reads, once per turn, during your main phase, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and return them in any order. That's it. That's all the skill really had to do. I don't think it would have been extremely broken if you're just able to rearrange your deck every turn. Yes, it's cool that you're able to go ahead and choose what you're going to draw into, but there's cards already in the game that do that for you, whether it be cards like Enchanting Fitting Room or Card Advance, two cards that are just conventionally not that good. And I think the fact that you're able to just rearrange them is fine and can genuinely make a decent strategy for Destiny Heroes, but I don't know, maybe it's too much of an upgrade. But yeah, that's pretty much the changes I would make for Aster. Next up after Aster, we have the Chaz himself with Armed and Ready. Realistically speaking, I don't believe this skill really needed that much of an upgrade, but because it's the only level skill we have in the game right now, I figured that we could probably do with a little bit of an upgrade for that strategy. So let's see if we can't fix that. The original skill reads, once per duel, during your main phase, you can send one level monster you control to the graveyard to special summon one level monster mentioned in that card's text from your hand, deck, or graveyard as if it were summoned by the set monster's effect. Really cool skill, but being restricted to once per duel activation, and that's pretty much all the skill does seem not as great just because those monsters are very fragile and they don't really last. So let's see what I did to fix it up. The new skill now reads, once per turn during your main phase, you can activate one of the following skills. Skill number 1, reveal a level monster in your hand, place at the bottom of the deck, then draw one card. Effect number 2, once per duel, you can send one level monster you control to the graveyard and special summon one level monster mentioned in its text from your hand, deck, or graveyard after it was summoned by the sent monster's effect. Now, this is a much better skill, I believe. We still kept the once per duel activation of being able to cheat out the level monster's conditions, but the big difference is the fact that we gave the deck the ability to mulligan your level monsters that you don't need. I think this is huge for the level deck, because one of the biggest issues with that strategy is the fact that if you open up one of your high level monsters, it feels awful because it's a dead card in your hand until you're able to summon off the monsters on your field. And being able to just actively do this every single turn feels very fair, while still be able to have the ability to cheat out your monsters. I like the skill a lot, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Moving on, we now have Dr. Von Crowler and his Ancient Fusion skill. Crowler, I wish would have gotten more support for the Ancient Gear deck. Just for the effect, I feel like Ancient Gear could have been a genuinely fun strategy to explore in speed duels, especially if you play into the tribute aspect of the deck and less into the fusion aspect of the strategy. But nevertheless, I figured that I would like to do something to make this deck a tad bit better without absolutely breaking it. And I don't know if I really met that condition. So the original skill we're going to be fixing is Ancient Fusion, as I said, and it reads, once per duel, you can discard one card to fusion summon one Ancient Gear Fusion monster from your extra deck using monster from your field as fusion materials. If one of the materials is an Ancient Gear Golem, you can use monsters from your hand and or deck as the other materials. Your opponent takes no damage for the rest of this turn, and any battle damage your opponent takes from that fusion monster is halved. Again, I like the way the skill is designed. The Ancient Gear Fusion monsters are extremely powerful and don't really fit speed duels all that well. That's part of the reason I didn't like the fact that they introduced them into speed duels. But you still have to find a way to make these cards actually feasible, especially for the fact that only one of them is in the game right now, so it just makes things really awkward and hard to play around with. That being said, let's take a look at how I ended up attempting to fix this skill. The new skill that I designed for Crowler now reads, you can tribute summon one Ancient Gear Golem for one less tribute for each monster your opponent controls, essentially mimicking the new skill Joey got for the Red Ice deck, allowing you to have a pseudo way of being able to bring out your boss monster a lot easier. But then the skill continues having the same original effect that the skill already had, where you can discard a card to fusion summon an Ancient Gear Golem and yada yada yada. The main change that I ended up making to the skill is just the fact that you're able to go ahead and bring out Ancient Gear Golem a lot easier on your own, which I think is a much cooler way of going ahead and designing this strategy. Be able to bring out your original boss monster in a better way. Maybe this is a bit too much, which does give you the access to the fusion play a lot easier. It's very difficult, as I said, because of the fact of the nature of the Ancient Gear strategy. Realistically speaking, I probably could have left this skill alone and not changed anything, but because Ancient Gear as a strategy doesn't have that much going on for it, I figured, what if I threw it a little bit of a bone? But give me your thoughts. Alright then, so next character up in this video we have is Jesse Anderson with the Rainbow Crystal Collection. Now, this has to be probably the skill that I had the hardest time trying to figure out how to upgrade. just for the very fact that the way this skill works in SpeedDuels is very difficult to utilize because of how vulnerable you are during a duel, and it'll make a lot more sense once we take a read at it. So this skill reads: if a face-up crystal beast monster you control would be destroyed, you can place a crystallization counter on it instead. Monsters with crystallization counters on them are considered continuous spell cards in the spell and trap card zone instead of monsters. If a card with a crystallization counter would be special summoned, you can remove the counter from it instead. Cards with crystallization counters on them can be used for featured materials for an ultimate crystal monster. So yeah, essentially what this skill is attempting to do is prevent your back row from being cluttered with crystal beast monsters to allow you to still activate the copious amounts of spell and trap cards the deck has access to, which in concept sounds great. That is one of the main issues that I do find myself experiencing whenever I use the Crystal Transcendence skill. However, in practice, it isn't as great as you might think because of the fact that you are constantly left vulnerable in really awkward situations during a duel because of the fact that you have essentially 2 dead monster zones active on your field at all times, and I just do not like that at all. So I did my best to try and fix that. Alright then, so this is the newly improved version of this skill, and hopefully it works better than what I thought. Alright then, so in the new skill, it now reads: if a face-up crystal beast monster you control would be destroyed, you can place a crystallization counter on it instead. That part is still the same. Monsters with crystallization counters are also treated as continuous spell cards in the spell and trap card zone and must remain in attack position. See, this little change is really important because of the fact that your crystal beast monsters are also still monsters while continuously being considered a continuous spell card on the field. This way you're able to go ahead and benefit from the fact that you have a monster on your field and the condition of a lot of the crystal beast cards you need. Additionally, I think the fact that we have it where your monster has to remain face up in attack position prevents you from being able to cheese your opponent from never attacking your life points by keeping your monster in defense mode. Also, because they are treated as continuous spell cards on the field, that means that they become susceptible to a lot of backward removal. Cards like Twister, MST, etc. are able to very easily remove these monsters. They're not actually immortal either. The rest of the skill is still the same, removing the counter to special summon, blah blah blah. The most important thing about this skill is just the fact that the monster on the field is still treated as a monster, and I think this completely fixes the skill and makes it actually playable and something I would consider utilizing, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below regarding the skill. Alright then, so the last character from the main roster is Axel with Volcanic Cannon. And Axel has one of my favorite decks in SpeedDuels with Volcanics. I really like the strategy a lot. I think it's really fun, but unfortunately Volcanic Cannon is not an incredible skill because of the way it's phrased. Essentially this skill reads: once per duel you can send a Tri-Blaze Accelerator you control to the graveyard to special summon a Volcanic Doomfire from your hand, deck, or graveyard, ignoring its summoning conditions. Your opponent takes no effect damage for the rest of the turn you activate the skill. The main thing I don't like about this skill is the once per duel activation. Activating Tri-Blaze Accelerator is already hard enough to do in Volcanics because of the fact that not only do you have to have the Tri-Blaze Accelerator in your hand to activate this card, but you also have to have the Blaze Accelerator reload on the field to tribute away to activate this spell card. Having to tribute summon a spell card is crazy, and the fact that you're restricted to once per duel activation for doing this, it seems ridiculous. So the change was very obvious. The new skill now reads: once per turn you can send a Tri-Blaze Accelerator you control to the graveyard to special summon the Volcanic Doomfire, ignoring its summoning conditions. Your opponent takes no effect damage until you activate the skill. Now that's the easiest change that was in this video. Changing the once per duel to once per turn is more than enough to salvage this skill, and that's all I did. Alright then, so we're now down to our last 3 characters of this video. The last 3 characters are going to be all the miscellaneous skills that we ended up getting in this set that didn't actually have a dedicated deck for them. The first one we're going to be talking about is going to be Bastion with Energizing Elements. And this is a really fun little skill, but I think it could do with a little bit of tinkering. So this skill reads: you can declare fire, water, earth, or wind. This turn, monsters of the declared attribute gain 500 attack and lose 400 defense. Also, any battle damage that they inflict is halved. If you control no monsters with these declared attributes, flip this card over. So really fun skill, boosts the whole field, but I think we can do better. Now, the new version of the skill now reads: you can declare fire, water, earth, or wind. This turn, monsters you control with the declared attribute gain 500 attack and lose 400 defense. If you control a monster that is not of the declared attribute, flip this card over. Now, this version of the skill I like quite a bit. Essentially, this kind of forces you to play into a certain attribute and giving any deck of those attributes a dedicated way of becoming like a beatdown strategy, and forces you not to go ahead and experiment all that much with other cards and instead focus in on your own attribute and see if you can find any other gimmicky cards that can work with that deck. I like the way the skill ended up coming out, but give me your thoughts. After that, we have Cyrus with Room to Grow. Another really fun gimmicky skill that I think could do a tad bit of working around. So the skill for Cyrus reads, during your main phase you can increase the attack of one level 3 or lower monster you control by 300 times its level until the end of this turn. Essentially, this version of Cyrus' skill works is like a beatdown from Duel Links that was really good during its time. Essentially, it would boost up all level 5, I believe, and higher monster on your field by 300 per monster you controlled. Essentially, if you had a field of 3 blue eyes, you could boost all of them by 900 attack points, which is very powerful. And this is something similar that you could do with this skill, but with level 3 monsters. The new version of my skill now reads, once per turn during your main phase, you can increase the attack of all level 3 or lower monsters you control by 300 times their level until the end of this turn. This skill can be used twice per duel. You see, this time around, I like the version of the skill because of the fact that we're only working with level 3 monsters and below. The best monster you can summon off this skill is like a Sonic Bird, I think is what it's named, a vanilla 1700 attack monster. And if we're really concerned about vanilla beatdown as a deck that is going to be broken in speed duels, I feel like there's bigger issues in the game than that. And even if you take into consideration cards like Submarine Roid that would thrive using a skill like this, keep in mind, Submarine Roid much rather be played with the skill, I believe the Roids are alright, that allows you to swap his attack and defense, essentially dealing major damage to your opponent with those direct attacks. I think that for the most part, this skill would be fine. It wouldn't be that broken. But if you can think of an interaction that is really broken, let me know in the comment below, because I can't think of one. Alright then, and our final skill is Hassleberry with I've Got Dino DNA. I love the name of the skill, it's really fun, and also this is such a cute skill that I forget exists in the game because nobody uses it. This skill reads, during each of your draw phases you can gain 200 life points. Adorable. During your draw phase, if you draw a dinosaur monster for your normal draw, you can reveal it and place it at the bottom of the deck, then draw one card. And finally, once per turn, during your main phase, you can make one dinosaur monster you control gain 200 attack until the end of this turn. This skill does a lot, but not enough whatsoever because of how little the increment is. I like this skill a lot, it's just it has no real home anywhere in Speed Duel. So I did my best to try and upgrade it a tad bit. So the new version of this skill now reads, during each of your draw phases you gain 500 life points, being equivalent to that of a golden ladybug. During your draw phase, if you draw a dinosaur monster for your normal draw, you can reveal it and place it at the bottom of the deck to draw one card. That stayed the same. Also, once per turn, during your main phase, you can make one dinosaur monster you control gain 300 attack until the end of this turn, essentially making it to where you have active the Jurassic Park skill for one monster you control. I think that with these minimal increments increases, you have more reason to go and activate it. Your life points gain is become a lot more rambunctious. The attack is a bit more important this time around. So I think with these little changes, this skill might see someplace somewhere. And with that, this concludes today's video. The comment section below, give me your thoughts on today's skills that we ended up changing and what changes you would personally make. I always appreciate the feedback you guys give me, and any feedback as to whether the skills were too good, not good enough, will go ahead and help me out with future videos in this series. But anyway, if you guys would like to show your support for the channel, then please go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. But if you want to take your support a step further, then you can always become a channel member for only 99 cents to get badges next to your name, custom Topsy emojis, and a shout out at the end of the video. On that note, huge shout out to our current 2 channel members, those being Checks Start and of course Truck as well. Huge shout out to you guys, and I really appreciate the support you guys keep showing me. With all that being said, thank you all for watching to the end, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye guys.